Our investment is people. That is our ROI, is investment in people.
This is Elegant Homes with Don Reilly. Each week, get expert advice from Don Reilly that's straightforward, making sure you're not taken advantage of. Powered by CFI and by Marshall Chevrolet in Carrollton, Kentucky.
Welcome to Elegant Homes. I'm your host, Don Reilly. We're making every home elegant, one home at a time. No hassle, no pressure, just elegant. We are looking at some major heat, and I tell you, this heat is just gotten hot. And I'm looking at our producer, Tony. Tony, it's hot out there today. And, you know, I tell people when it's hot like this, workers, it slows them down. The production just gets slower. And I was out in the heat today, and it just seemed that we had a lot of guys that seemed like they were just run down from this heat. And, you know, when you work in this heat all day, and people don't realize that being a carpenter or a siding guy or a window guy, and you're out in this 100-degree heat putting windows or siding, you got to keep yourself hydrated, because that's the most important job, is to keep your body hydrated. I've seen so many guys over the years that go out in the marketplace, they're doing a siding or a window job, and the heat just gets them. And, you know, unfortunately, a lot of guys today don't think about keeping themselves hydrated. And I know personally I have to keep myself hydrated, even not being out doing the physical work so much as the mental work. But it's still a big problem today. And I always tell the guys, number one, keep yourself hydrated. And with 100-degree weather, it's real easy to get caught. And you get busy, you get your tools out, and you start working. And the next thing you know, you're on the ground. And you're wondering why, because you didn't keep yourself hydrated. And I've seen it. I've seen guys black out. I've seen them fall down. I've had guys fall, you know, almost collapse and fall off roofs before, especially in this 100-degree weather. So all I want to tell you out there, if you are a worker and you're listening to this podcast right now, keep yourself hydrated. Very, very important. We always want to keep safety first, not only with elegant jobs, but every job out there, every contractor out there. Make sure you're keeping yourself hydrated. So, all right, we got a special guy with us today. You know, it's funny when you talk about people in this industry, you talk about the guys who've been around for a while. This guy has been around, and I want to welcome is Mr. Kevin Johnson. Kevin, how you doing?
Doing great. Thanks, Don. Appreciate that.
We go back a long time. Me and Kevin have worked together in this industry for probably, I would say, 12 to 15 years. And Kevin actually goes back as far as 27 years. So we've been together a long time. Longer than most marriages.
Well, in today's market, I have to agree. So, yeah, you're correct.
But let's let Kevin tell a little bit about. Kevin is one of these guys that you come across in this business, and he's one of the few left in this business that really, we go back to the telemarketing days, and really there's no telemarketing rooms or offices out there anymore. Kevin, tell a little bit of how you got in this business, how you became so good on the phone. This guy is probably one of the best you'll ever meet when it comes to phone and procuring that sale for that sales guy, or just procuring that customer to set them up for the job afterwards. And Kevin does such a great job. Kevin, I'm going to shut up. I want to hear how Kevin starts his day out on the phone until the end of the day. I mean, I want you to tell him what it takes to do that. It's a lot of work, and it's mentally draining, I know, even though you're doing it from inside the office. So,
well, I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you very much. And very simply, folks, what it takes is, first off, a lot of dedication. And you've got to be very focused on what you do. It takes a lot of time to take a look at the different situations as far as when the calls come in. You've got to be prepared. You've got to be ready for just about anything at points. But more importantly, what you have to do is you've got to be able to line up in a sequence what the folks are talking about. So if they're talking about a roof, you've got to find out how old the home is. Of course, that's pretty much criteria for everything. And then along those lines, you start asking some very simple questions. It just lines everything up nicely for the rep. So he's got a full gamut or a repertoire of what he needs to go in to ask things that make sense instead of just shooting from the hip, which it used to be, and Don can tell you, there used to be quite a bit of that a long time ago.
We don't like that.
And me, myself, I started out in sales. I don't want to go on too much about this, but I I've been working for close to 45 years now, and I started out in an outside sales position. That position wound up procuring itself into almost 17 straight years with the same company. I was outside doing warehousing and shipping and receiving goods. And within that, I learned a lot about how to sell, why to sell, what to sell. And the first thing that the guy told me I'll never forget was to take care of your customer, listen to them, write everything down. Of course, back then there were no cell phones, there wasn't anything along those lines, so it was pretty much pen, paper, listening, and the art of listening. And there is an art to that. You've got to be able to listen to people and understand what their needs are, what their wants are, what their desires are, and that is how you start the foundation of working with these folks, getting them in line, and then once you find out what their needs are, it makes it so much simpler and easier for the rep, but it also makes it much easier for the customer to feel comfortable with your company.
I agree. Absolutely.
And that's the secret to this, is to find out their comfort level, what they're looking for, and joke with them, talk to them like they're a person instead of you being a robot and so on. That's, to me, that's how it's set up.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Kevin, how'd you end up in this business? Because I know you're talking about you did this outside sales, and it just so happened that job ran out, right? And
well, no, not necessarily. What it did is it ran out to me mentally because I wanted to start a family, and my wife was working and working at a very good company here in Cincinnati. And I decided, because I had done extremely well, I'll just be honest with you, that it worked itself out to where we had financially, we were very stable, and we were able to go ahead and set this up. So I started out, and I went to a company, which I'm not going to say who they are, but it was just what it was. It was inside sales. It was telemarketing, and I started on the phone for them. And I learned, how to use the phone. I learned how to use, what I had, transforming over from being outside, which is different. It is different being face-to-face than going on the phone and not seeing anyone. That makes it kind of a tough thing to do. But you learn how to transition from face-to-face to over the phone that way. And I had some people teaching me that were very good people, by the way. And they had their own story, believe me. So it was interesting, but I was taught well. But that's how I started in this business. I got off the road. I was gone constantly. In that realm, I decided, well, okay, this is a real transition for me to change from what I was making to what I started out with. And again, we have to remember, this is many, many years ago. It was 1993. So it was a long time ago that I started doing this. And then, I just sat at it was actually what they called an AMCAT 2000. It was a computerized thing for the phone, which the gentleman's shaking his head over here, so he knows the nomenclature. So that's what it was, and it was a funny system, believe me, but it was really a telltale system. You could get caught doing a lot of things if you weren't doing it right. And that's the biggest thing with me, was the ethics. I wanted to learn how to do it ethically, do it properly, like I had done everything else in life. I was taught well by my parents, believe me. And so that was important to me, was to do it correctly. But that's how I started. I was outside, over the road, went to the inside to transition to start my family and be home. That was the bottom line, to be home.
So you were a family guy, and I know that's
Yes.
always been very important to you, because you've been with me a long time, and I know family's everything to you.
Absolutely.
It is to me also. And so you make this transition. You go into inside sales from being outside for all that time. And then all of a sudden you start talking to these people who are homeowners, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're not face-to-face anymore. That had to be scary. I know it was for me as a door knocker years ago in this industry. It had to be scary not looking at that person in the eye and talking to them. So take us back a little bit through a call, maybe someone calling in, and what was that like, fielding those calls? I mean, being brand new in the home improvement business.
It was. You're right. It
Yeah.
was nerve-wracking, and it was scary because I'd never dealt with Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner. It was a whole different aspect. The people I had dealt with were engineers and maintenance engineers and CEOs of small companies and buyers and purchasing agents. That's who I had dealt with. I mean, so they were, the upper echelon of people in their company who pulled the trigger. And they were, again, it was face to face, so that was tough enough.
And they knew you were coming.
They knew I was coming.
Mrs. Jones and Mr. Jones, they're just answering the phone and, hey, this is Kevin Johnson, and hello today, how are you? So it's a cold call. You're calling.
Absolutely.
So it's a big difference, folks. I want you to realize the difference between knowing the manager knowing you're coming to a cold call in this industry. Very tough.
It's very tough. Yeah. And thank you for prefacing that, because it is. That's where the rubber meets the road. It takes you from doing something that's pretty much set up to people who don't know who you are from Adam when you're calling. And it was scary, because you had to take the time to actually get to know them, to be polite, be professional enough to keep them on the phone, which Don can probably tell you that's a tough thing to do, is just keep them, especially when you're young.
Very tough.
Yeah, and you're young at that industry and you didn't know what to say.
It's just like
times.
It's just like knocking a door. When I started this company, I knocked doors. I mean, that's how I started Elegant Home. Hey, stop by, drop off some information, introduce myself. My name's Don. I'm with Elegant Homes. You got a beautiful house here. It's that first, I'm talking to them face to face. You're going off a script and you're talking to them on the phone. Whole nother scenario. You got to be good. I mean, you got to be real good.
Yeah, and it takes time. Thank you. Yeah, it does. It takes time to learn that. And
I want to say you were the best in the business at that. So I want people to know that. That's why I said there's not a lot of you guys left. And still to this day, you are one of the best at that. I mean, and as good as I am, I could never do what you do. I would never try to do what you do, because you have cultivated that part of the business to make it your own.
Well, thank you. Yes, that's what I pride myself in. I took it from being a kind of a scared, nervous guy on the other end of a AMCAT 2000, and utilizing what I had, which was my personality, and trying to come through to these people again. So I took a little bit what I had learned face to face, and you have to be gentlemanly, you have to be honest, and that's a big thing in this industry, honesty. And it wins out, folks, because I'm still here, I'm still doing it, and a lot of other people, unfortunately, have fallen by the wayside. And it takes a lot of integrity and a lot of time to learn how to do this. And I want to thank Don for the pat on the back there, because I appreciate it, because there's a lot of times you do go underappreciated in that industry. Believe me, I've been down that road as well. No matter how good you do, it doesn't make any difference. There's still going to be a lot of people that are going to take their shots at you. And if you can stand up and put a Band-Aid on your busted jaw, and go back to it, then you're in good shape. And that happens enough. But yeah, it does. It works out. And yes, I worked at it, and it is tough to talk to people over the phone. You have to learn how to, again, listen to what they want and get in with them and talk to them. And one of the famous things that I learned, but I used it along the way, is, when you're trying to be honest with people, when you're closing, getting the appointment, and you've told them everything, and they seem to be wanting to have someone come out, which was the toughest thing, is getting from point A to point Z, where they trust you from not knowing you at all. They don't know who you are or where you're calling from. And to get them to, earn and gain your trust level from that point to Z, when you're closing them down, and make them feel comfortable, that's important. And I always left them with this. I would say, hey, listen, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, if this sounds good to you, we can come out at this time and this date. And again, it's a reiteration close. And then at that particular point, you know what it is, Mrs. Smith, about the only thing that you're going to lose would be a handshake and a glass of water. Does that sound fair? And they'd laugh. You've broken the ice. You've gotten their total trust, and you go on to the next person. But there's a lot of work in between.
And I always found it amazing in all these years. Kevin's been with me almost 6-7 years now, just here at Elegant Homes. But even when I worked with you, when I was the GM at Renewal by Anderson, and we worked together in other companies, I was always fascinated because you always kept the customer's attention, because you made it personable with them. You would ask about their kids and the soccer, and and you got deep into the family roots. And, when you hit that core, that is something special because not a lot of guys can do that on the phone. And, and that's why I always admire you because I tell people this, Kevin never did it for the money. He did it because he loved it. And you still love it today. That's why you're still doing it. I mean, I don't like to give anybody's age away, but Kevin, he'll be 64 years old, still out here talking to folks on the phone. And he doesn't do it for the money. He does it because he loves it, but you always stayed consistent, and that's hard to find in this industry. So I always admire you, not just because I'm your boss or owner of the company, but I admire you because you've never lost your integrity. You've always stayed honest, and that's what we're all about here. And you know that, as you know me as well as anybody. We always stay core to our roots and with our customers and make sure we're being honest with all of our customers. So
that's important to me and to remain the same. It's just who I am. It's my persona.
Yep.
What you see is what you get.
Yep.
It's no phony stuff. It's just who I am and how I was raised and what I learned, and I've utilized it the whole time. And it is still fun. I still, believe me, if it weren't fun anymore, it'd be like the old ball player. I just take my cleats and hang them up and go on home.
And, it's funny, me and Kevin, we have this little thing that we do, and we've been doing it for years, but we just have what we call silly days. And if you were in here, you'd probably think we were nuts, right, Kevin? But there's some days that me and Kevin just have to.
And then some.
We have to, just because we deal with people all day long.
Right.
We have to just joke among each other and tell little jokes and stories, and it just makes our day better. And I think that's part of who we are. I mean, being in this industry for 19 years, almost 20 years, you being in 28, 29, it's just who we are. It's people wouldn't understand if they were in here with video cameras, they'd probably think we were nuts, but me and you, we joke and tell little stories, and it's our little thing. It's like a baseball team or a football team. You hear all those stories of what happens on the inside. It's the same thing in this industry. And we always talk about those famous customers that we've dealt with over the years, and we never forget those.
Yes.
And we love all of our customers, but you always have those ones that just stick out in your mind.
Yeah, they're special people. Yeah. God bless them for who they are. So that's the way I see that. So
Kevin, what would you say is the best thing we do here at Elegant Homes as a company? I mean, something that you hang your hat on every day that we do that you think drives us to be successful?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Now, this goes back to Don. I'm gonna hop off of my horse since he's been so polite to me. I'm gonna return the favor here, and this is honest, folks. I'm not telling anything that people don't know who know us. It is. You can underscore this to the nth degree. It's customer service. We take care of our people, and Don. People love him. He goes out to the house. I hear an awful lot of compliments on him constantly, year after year, day after day. People like him. They trust him. They understand. Once they've spoken to him, they know exactly why he's there. He takes time to tell them exactly what they're looking for, and he opens it up for questions and answers on their part, which is the most important thing to do. Again, it's digging in and finding out what they want, but it's being polite, which is who we are anyway, because I know this man, how he is. And I know that he's blown my skirt up, enough at this point, but I have to do that with him as well. That's what it is.
So let's not forget about our other guys that are
every
Gary,
one of them. Todd and
we got
Gary
good guys here. And our new president, Josh Schran. I mean, so he's the new president of our company, and Josh. So we got a good core team.
It's a good nucleus, and that's what it takes. It takes the right people in the right place to formulate a good, solid company, which we have. And that's what we base it on. We base it on being friendly. We base it on being courteous. We base it on knowing our product and then passing that forward to the customer to ensure that they are comfortable with what they're getting from Elegant Home Exterior. That's it.
Yep.
And that's why it works for us, and that's why we've been successful. And we've seen this move, if you wanted to be like in a marketing situation like the stock market, it's moved on the Dow. It's moved from starting out, slight, and then people building into it and adding money into it, and then building up and building up and building up to where you get more shares, and then you broaden your scope. And then after that, the shares start to put ROI back into your pocket. But we do that with people. Our investment is people. That is our ROI, is investment in people. And they, in turn, because we live and die, and I'm telling you, we do the stats on this. We, over the last, we'll just say basically 6 years, since we're just about there on that one, we really, by word of mouth, have procured probably 78 to 79% return business because of who we are, how we treat people, and it's important. And just like Don said with myself, it's not for the money. It's so that we know that at the end of the day, we've done a good job, and that people are proud of what we do, and they show off their home and they say, look, Elegant Home Exteriors did this, this, and that to our home. If you need something, call Don, call Kevin, and that's what we're looking at, and that's what makes us feel good.
That's a good stopping point to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Elegant Homes, we'll be right back. One of the things I like to talk about is my guys over at CFI. They are some of the best when it comes to carpet installation, linoleum, ceramic, maybe even you need that new tile or hardwood in your home. These guys are the best. I always recommend CFI because they do a quality installation, and they always show up on time, and they're always very courteous to me and my wife at our home. If you're looking for some of the best guys in the installation business, look no further than CFI. These guys are the best. You can reach them at cfiinstallation.com. Once again, that's cfiinstallation.com. Also, you got to stop out and see Rob and the gang out there at Marshall Chevrolet. These guys are great. If you're looking for that new Equinox, maybe that new Chevy Silverado or Trailblazer, stop out and see Rob and the gang out there at Marshall Chevrolet. They'll really hook you up. They got a great service team. They'll get you in, roll you out, and make sure that you tell them Don Reilly with Elegant Homes sent you.
You're locked into Elegant Homes, powered by CFI. For all your flooring needs, cfiinstallation.com, and by Marshall Chevrolet in Carrollton, Kentucky.
Welcome back to Elegant Homes. I'm your host, Don Reilly. And we are sitting here with Kevin Johnson. Kevin's been with me for about 6 years now. Kevin's probably one of the best phone guys you'll ever want to meet. I've seen a lot of phone guys in this industry, but I'm telling you, I'm not just tooting his horn, but this guy is probably one of the best. And when people talk to Kevin, it's funny, I go into people's homes that Kevin has set up the appointment for me, and they always say, I don't know who that guy is that you have at your office, but he is probably one of the most politest gentlemen that we've ever talked to as far as setting up an appointment for a home improvement consultation. And I say that's why he works for me. He is one of the best. You know, and Kevin, we talk about customers all the time, and talk a little bit about some of the funny things, you know, and Kevin tells me some of these things, and it cracks me up. Some of the things that customers ask you when we're setting up a windows appointment or maybe a siding appointment. Some people ask you some of the funniest things, and you tell me these stories, and I get the biggest kick out of it. Well,
yeah, you hear some pretty off-the-wall stuff at times, but you just, you have to remember that they aren't in this industry, and it somewhat shows at times, but it's some interesting questions. But a lot of people, when they get going, they always are asking things like, how long is this going to take? And, what am I to expect? And does my husband have to be here? And all of those things are, they're rather passé anymore. Those have kind of gone out with the horse and buggy type deal. But it's nice of them to ask, but it just is kind of humorous. So anyhow, yeah, we get a lot of questions. People don't know when they're looking at windows and they're looking at doors. They ask very off-the-wall questions like, is this single pane? I mean, what size windows can you guys put in? And we can do anything. I mean, so it doesn't matter. But a lot of the questions are based on, for a lack of better terminology, I'll just say archaic. They're very old. They have a lot of old ideas and old things that they ask. Like what do you still do aluminum siding? Now that's one right there. That to me is I'm sorry, it's a little, but it is humorous because we don't do that. Aluminum siding
been gone a long time. That's a dinosaur.
That's an absolute Flintstone. That's gone.
The reason I asked you that question is because let's go back to when you first started in this business. Times have changed.
Absolutely.
Big time. I mean, we got COVID-19 now. That's changed the industry. But people don't ask about some things that they did years ago, like Better Business Bureau. That's where I tell people that's why we talk about all the time bad contractors, because people don't so much ask those questions because they have the computer today. They didn't have that when you started in this industry, so they couldn't look up to see if Elegant Home Exterior was a good company or not. Now they can. So they ask more about the products and the service than they do about the company and the ratings, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It's already out there. That's the big thing. So, yes, they do. They ask about the products and the services and what we can expect. And
doesn't make the call any easier, though.
No,
because,
no.
It's still work on your end.
Sometimes it even makes it tougher because they come from ones they do not know the area. They just don't know a lot about that. So it's fun. I mean, but it just sounds kind of odd because, there is so much information out there, but yet they're still asking questions that are kind of based in the old format. But you're right. Yeah, the Google and all of that, which thank goodness for all of that now, because it helps us. It actually helps us a lot. People do a lot of searching, and I know the younger that the people are, the more that they do, which is good. So they're pretty well versed. I mean, in some things by the time they get to us. But they still ask some very off-the-wall funny questions. Yeah. But it's just humorous to me, because I've been in this forever. I think I had hair when I started. I don't anymore. So it's gone. But yeah, as far as that goes, yes. Yeah, they ask a lot of good questions, but they still ask some funny ones. But yeah, there's some humorous stuff there. So,
but it keeps the day interesting. That's for sure.
That's the most important thing. Yes, yeah, it does. It keeps it interesting. And for me, it's fun for me to help again. Especially, it's fun to help everyone. But I like helping the younger kids because of my own children and everything. I just like to help the younger people because it's. They don't know a lot about it, and they're trying to grow, and they're trying to figure it out. So it's fun for that way.
With other guests we've had on the show, a lot of people, we talk about the millenniums, and we had a couple of realtors that, Bill DeAndre is one of our guests, and talked about how the millenniums, they are the spenders today. They're the cream of the crop that's coming up, but people don't realize that they're buying the bigger homes. They've got the high education. They're the doctors and the lawyers. So these are the people that you're talking about that you like to help because a lot of times they're first-time homeowners and first-time buyers, and they don't know the questions to ask, and they don't know the, all these things to ask the realtor or the inspector when they come in.
Exactly.
So we can actually, on your end, sometimes you can be a big help, and I listen to you talk to them all the time, and you can tell them things to look for, and I know you do that a lot in your in everyday your working situation every day on the phone. So
yes, I do. Yeah, and again, it's a part of it, but we kind of intervene. We go kind of a go-between between what they know and what they don't know, which is fun for me because that's the important fact. And again, that's part of the relationship building thing that you want these people to trust you, and you want them to understand what they're getting into, and I'm telling you right now, I've had some people that have asked me some questions about other things, other companies, other products, and so on, and I've steered them away because they are, my experience, they're not good, and we don't utilize those products, and there's obviously a good reason for that because they simply don't work. So that's why, I tell them, and then they're kind of like, oh, no, it does not. And you'll see this, when Don gets there, he'll be more than happy to show you. He'll bring samples, he'll bring brochures, and in that way you can actually get a visual or a tangible thing to hang on to and to hold and grab it in your hand and look at it. That way it makes it much easier to understand what you're getting instead of just somebody telling you something in cyberspace. That just doesn't work. I mean, and that's why we work together on that, and it works out very well. But yeah, it's another one, just kind of intervene, and Mr. DeAndre is right. The millennials are the ones that are making the big money, and they've earned it. I mean, they've gone to school, and they've taken their time, and so they are the buyers, and that's who I like to help.
And this brings us to a good part of our show, and I love this part of our show. But we are going to get into our hammer time. It's hammer time on Elegant Homes.
It's hammer time.
And I'm looking at our producer, Tony, And we always love this part of the show because we talk about bad contractors. Hammer Time is all about the guys that are taking advantage of these millenniums and these older folks out there. We don't like that. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the things, the do's and the don'ts of the home improvement business. And Kevin, as long as we've been doing this, you know the do's and the don'ts. And you never take someone's money and never show back up and do a job. We just don't do business that way.
Right.
You don't do that. That's a no-no in our industry. And we have heard over the years of these stories, and you've heard thousands of them because you're on the phone with a customer.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about bad contractors. What do you recommend to someone that would say, Kevin, what do you think about so-and-so or this company or that? I mean, we never talk bad about other companies.
No.
But if we've heard bad stories, we might say in a roundabout way, you might want to watch out for this particular situation or that, and lead them down that right path without talking bad about
derogatory.
Exactly.
You don't want to have derogatory comments about another group of people. They're out there trying to make money, albeit good or bad. We just tell them that, you have to be cautious when you are talking to different contractors, because some people they're just going to phony it up. I mean, I can't say it any other way. I'm trying to be polite,
you're right.
But they will. They're phonies, and unfortunately, people have been bitten more than twice on some of these things, and they lose a lot of money. People come by and they get started. There's one story, as a matter of fact, and it's really quick. There was an older woman I had spoken to that she lived in Hyde Park. She got a guy that was out there, and he was a single entity. He was just by himself. He was the guy that comes up in the pickup truck and, said, I can take care of this, and all I need is, like $2,000. I think it was $2,000 or $2,500 up front. And all it was doing was replacing like 4 pieces of clapboard. And it's like, okay, first off, that's a ton. She told me. I mean, she told me exactly how much it was. And then the thing is that she gave him $2,500 cash.
Wow. And I hate to say, but that is the shit that pisses me off.
Okay. But that's understandable. And it does. It's very upsetting. Yeah. Believe me, because again, you try to protect the public and make them aware. But, she had already done this, and I had to listen to her story. But it just tells me, again, over and over and over, that it keeps going on, and it is an ongoing thing, unfortunately. But yeah, what happened there? She took the money, and he finished off 2 boards. The lady was inside eating, figuring, okay, this guy is still working. Left, took everything, ladders, truck, gone.
Terrible.
No card, no phone, no nothing, and she was out, I guess, about $2,500, if I'm not mistaken. Wow. And that was it. Never came back and couldn't find him. He was nowhere, and there's no background. So people get torched. I mean, I have no other way to say it, and it's really sad to me, especially when you start taking advantage of old people. That is the one I don't like. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them are very unassuming, and they figured when somebody told them they were going to do something, that they were going to be there, they were going to do the job, and they were going to be honest, and these people took advantage of them. So that's what I dislike about it. And yes, it's out there, and it still happens to this day. So beware, people.
And I remember when you first came to work with Elegant Homes, you had a friend of yours. She was an elderly lady, and I remember she was shopping for windows, remember?
Yes.
And she had a guy that was trying to take advantage of her,
Yep.
and we led her down the right path with putting windows in. She was so nervous of all these guys trying to take advantage of her, but at least we gave her an honest, and you gave her kind of an education on what not to do, and I think she just took her time and shopped around, and she said, I think I'm just going to hold off on this for now. But you saved her from making that dreadful decision of going with that bad company that was going to take her money and not do the job.
Yeah, because she was a widow and had been for quite some time. Very friendly, very good friend of ours, and especially with my wife, and just a lovely lady. And I could tell by the way she was talking that it sounded something was rotten in Denmark, and so I put my finger in the dike and put the water back in there instead of leaking out. It did. It came to fruition that she was on the edge of being scammed, and I did help her, and which is no problem for me. I mean, God bless her soul. I love her to death. She's a good lady. And so it was important to me, and I'm glad I was able to do that. But yeah, you're absolutely correct. Yeah.
You know, we've ran in these situations all the time, and all we can do as a good company is we can try to stop it, and we put the hammer down on these bad contractors, and we get the word out there. If you are a customer and you need to find out if someone is going to be, performing a job for you, you need to find out their background, feel free, give us a call. Call Elegant Homes, give us a call. We can do the research for you. If you don't have the capabilities of doing that, we'd be more glad to help you out. And we just don't want to see you throw your money down the drain.
Exactly.
I have loved this all together around. This has been great. Kevin Johnson, he's here with us, Elegant Homes. Kevin, I want to thank you for coming on the show today.
You're welcome.
And, at the end of the show, I always like to ask this, I call it the $1 million question. If you could go back, 28 years now in the home improvement industry, what would you do different? I'm going to ask you the $1 million question today. Would you do anything different? Would you keep it the same? Would you end your career with Elegant Homes? Would you took a different path?
Well, in all fairness and hindsight, I would say there would be a lot that I would do different. It was a great learning curve, so it's kind of a split decision here. It was a great learning curve. And it was. I got to be honest with you, from where I came from to where I wound up, it was kind of a culture shock type thing, especially with some of the persona that I worked with. But it's all good. It was a learning curve. I got along with these people, but it just wasn't the same type of business. It was extremely different, a little more hardcore. But no, I probably wouldn't change anything, to be honest with you. I did like it. And again, I was around a lot of people. And yeah, obviously, I'm going to retire out with Elegant Home. I'm going to finish my career with that. But when it's time to go, it'll be time to go. But yeah, I don't really think I would change a whole lot. No, I enjoyed it, but I took a few black eyes and a few stakes on the eyes to clean it up.
Sure.
But otherwise, no.
Well, it's been our pleasure today. Kevin Johnson, probably one of the best in the business. If you got a home improvement project and you want to do it and you want it done right, you always call Kevin. He's the guy that kind of leads the horse down the path, as I say, in the business. And you won't talk to a better guy on the phone. So give Elegant a call. Make sure you talk to Kevin, and we'll get your project started. We're always going to keep your home first and always make it elegant. So we'll be back next week. You're listening to Elegant Homes. I'm your host, Don Reilly. No hassle, no pressure, just elegant.